your presentation.
Yeah, that's fine. Can I just introduce myself and my colleague who's joined the call as well? Um, Screen name Yasmin. This is Stanisława Wilczykowa, who is a co-author of this presentation.
Thank you for joining us both. So hello and welcome everyone to today's Public Health Lunch and Learn. Today's Lunch and Learn will be exploring the Roma community in Birmingham, and the session will be hosted by our Roma engagement partner, which is People for People. I'm going to hand over to the team from People for People straight away, so Magda and Stanislava. They've got some really great content to run through this afternoon in the Lunch and Learn. The session's being recorded, so it'll be over on the Healthy Brum YouTube channel afterwards. And there is a question and answer session at the end as well. But feel free to pop any questions in the chat, or we can wait till the end of the PowerPoint. So I'll hand over to you both now and do an introduction, and we get started with the. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to today's session. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm really happy to also have my colleague Yasmin Stanisława Wilczykowa on the call. She is the co-author of this presentation and she herself is a member of the Roma community. So this presentation would not be possible without her input and insights from the community. So the aim of this session is to introduce you to a community that is very often overlooked, very marginalized across continental Europe. And obviously in the UK as well. We will provide a certain background when it comes to history and culture and the reasons why the Roma community is classified as hard to reach, but doesn't have to be. And we will give you some examples of successful engagement. I'm just going to go for it. It is essential that we give a content warning for this session. We will be mentioning violence that is racist, racial violence. We will mention the Holocaust, human trafficking, also chattel slavery and generational trauma related to these issues. Just something to bear in mind if you are sensitive particularly sensitive to any of these topics. So we will cover today geographical, political, economic and cultural background of the community and also the geographical mean probably geopolitical background of the Roma community. It is important to note that the community has been through the experience of living under the Soviet Union that left the impact on the Central and Eastern Europe in general, let alone its most marginalized community. We will cover the current situation of the community in home countries, so Central and Eastern European countries, and also situation of those migrant communities in the UK, the disadvantages that they face, but the opportunities for engagement and the improvement of their situation because of living in the UK. We will get to that by the end. We will cover what the cultural barriers to accessing public and third sector services are, the main challenges and barriers, and also successful engagement. And we were picking your battles. I'll explain this one by the very end. So a word of introduction, People for People CAC. We're an organization that was created in 2022. Completely coincidentally, we founded the organization when the war in Ukraine started, and our first projects were concentrated on supporting the Ukrainian community. Very soon we launched community events, family picnics in the park, digital skills courses, a campaign to encourage Central and Eastern Europeans to vote in local elections. And we started engaging in communities in Erdington, Handsworth, and Ward End. This is just what we do. We also don't classify ourselves as a just a Central and Eastern European organization. We happen to be Central and Eastern Europeans. We obviously speak the languages, but we work with absolutely any and every community that needs the services that we provide. That's immigration, housing, welfare, advice. So yes, this is People for People CIC in a nutshell. And our contact details will be there at the end of the presentation. So what is Central and Eastern Europe? If you look at the area in red, this is the area. So we've got the massive big brother Russia here. We've got obviously countries such as Ukraine, Belarus, Moldavia, Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, all the Balkan countries. There's like 7. Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, classified as Baltic countries here. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a map that would have them in red as well. Greece is also an Eastern European country. However, economically, it's classified already as Southern Europe. And here you've got the different subgroups of the Romani people, as you know, when it comes to the areas that they can be mostly found. So for Central and Eastern Europe, the main group is Roma. In the UK and Ireland, the Roma are called Romanichal. Then you've got Sinti and Kala. Perhaps Stanisława could actually explain the division better. Would you like to come on this one?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Stanisława Jasmin-Bolsekova, one of the grassroots Roma women from Slovakia. As Magda's already introduced me and explained a little bit about our community, these are actually the groups that a Roma community is divided into, and these groups contain of several subgroups. The language of these several subgroups is also differentiating from each other depending on which region the Roma people are living, settled in. So, for example, we've got different subgroups in Slovakia. We've got subgroups such as Lovari. We've got subgroups such as Rumungri, for example. And then in Romania, there are also different subgroups. We've got Lovari there as well, but the language differs. Then we've got Ricinari, for example, and many others. And in every single country, it's got a different subgroups. But Lovari and also Calderaș, they're one of the most subgroups that are in most of the countries.
Okay, thank you for this. Right. Okay. So, I'm sorry. I've included the explanation of how many countries and languages are in Central and Eastern Europe, because everyone just assumes that anyone from Poland or Romania speaks Russian. So this is just like further clarification. Okay, I'm going to move forward to the next slide. Now, why is it essential to understand the Central and Eastern Europe? Because we have been through that experience of being a part of the Soviet Union, because we were further economically marginalized by not only the impact of the Second World War, because everyone suffered in this one, but being cut off from the Western world and from the rest of the world pretty much. It left a huge impact on our mentality. So right after 1989, when the Soviet Union fell, our communities developed this, hyper individualism. We discovered capitalism, and everyone has to fend for themselves. And it's the law of the jungle. Whoever the first come, first served, and just very competitive mentality. From a very because communism placed such an emphasis on part of on the meaning of the community, and on the sharing, having resources and interests in common. after the Soviet Union fell, everything associated with communism, including that mentality, became, everything that was wrong with the world. So we are now those individualists, everyone fends for themselves. And in this very competitive world, we also utilized the skills that we developed while living under the Soviet Union. This was very much just being clever with the system, being able to work around the rules, find loopholes, cheat. For example, in Central and Eastern Europe, cheating on exams is not a big deal, and pretty much everyone does that. It's like an unspoken rule. Now, the Soviet Union, contrary to common belief, the Soviet Union had certain advantages. For example, in the Soviet Russian, a lot of Soviet republics recognized particular minorities and granted them specific protections, and this very much extended to the rest of the Soviet Union. However, it very much changed when it came to who was in charge of the Soviet Union and the Soviet Russia at the time. For example, during the rule of Stalin, the Roma community was forced, that used to lead this nomadic lifestyle, was forced to settled. Another thing that's important to note, that after communism fell and as we started joining, NATO, the European Union, we very quickly shifted from very homogeneous communities. Also, thank you, Holocaust. A lot of minorities in our countries were wiped out in the Holocaust. We shifted from very homogeneous communities to open borders, free market, free exchange of services, and the opportunities to travel. Okay, so I'm going to, and because the NGO movement and activists was so suppressed before 1989, we do not really have a culture of volunteering. And volunteering, and this is important for, understanding barriers to engagement for the Roma community and Central and Eastern Europeans in general. Volunteering, when you ask someone to volunteer their labor, it is often seen as exploitative, particularly when it's from a very marginalized community. This has to be said. Okay, the number of times that we've been asked what's the difference between Roma and Romanian is unbelievable. So Roma is an ethnicity, it's a culture, it's a heritage, it's a very specific community, it's a very specific minority. Being Romanian is a nationality. You can very much have Romanian Roma. They were simply, they simply hold the nationality of this country. But it is very important to say that these are not the same people. So yeah, just to make that point. The main facts about the Roma community, they originally come from Rajasthan and Punjab and have been in Europe for almost 800 years. Well, more than 800 years. Most of them are multilingual. They learn languages very quickly because they travel a lot. So at the very least, they speak Romanes and the language of country and of origin. And also this varies from family to family. There are families that I know from the Roma community that do not speak Romanes because they were in the UK, for example, since the 90s, and their parents speak Romanes, but they don't because they were already raised in this culture. They never had the contact with the language. Sometimes parents insisted that they don't speak Romanes so that no one can tell that they are from the Roma community. But most of them speak more than one language easily. For example, I work with a lot of people from the Romanian Roma community, and almost half of them speak Polish. So half of them, lived in Poland at some point. They are just very good with languages. It's just mind-blowing. I mentioned...
I can see you.
Oh, sorry. I think someone just... All right.
To this, Magda, sorry about
Yes.
to interrupt you. Some Roma communities are also prevented from speaking Romanes, not only prevented, but they were prosecuted for using their language. For example, Spanish Roma community, they have been prevented for 300 years to speak their own language. And also Romanes, like I mentioned previously, differs from in each region, in each country, and from one group to another as well, from each group. For example, like I mentioned before, subgroup Lovari, if they are in Slovakia, the dialect will be very different from the Lovari dialect in Romania, because they would have adopted some of the Romanian words into the language. So that's also a very important point to mention, because many times it happens. I am being, for example, called to interpret for somebody, but we might speak a completely different language, although we are Roma, but it's not the same language because it just differs so much. We do have the original Romanes, but nobody speaks that anymore because people have settled in different countries and they adopted different words, and the language have changed so much since.
Yeah.
The only place, and as far as I know, I haven't come across any other place where Romanes is still taught, is Romania, and is the University of Bucharest. There's actually a course that you can take where you can learn Romanes, the root language. You can learn it and you can get a diploma. I had the honor to study there.
Oh, that is brilliant. Thank you. I did not know that. Okay. Thank you for that. Right. Just moving on. So the roughly 25% of the Europe's Roma population were wiped out in the Holocaust. And the Roma are mostly just completely overlooked when we speak about the Holocaust. Obviously, everyone mentions the Jewish community, the disabled, but thousands died in the camps, and it has to be recognized. Now, I've mentioned the forced settlement. Now, the Roma are very much a multi-faith community, and this also depends on where they come from. Eastern Europe is, it seems like, when you only meet Polish or Slovakian people, it seems that everyone's, a Catholic, but it's absolutely not the case. There are plenty of countries that where the majority are Orthodox, or, for example, or Muslim. So it varies from country to country. Now, in the UK, the Roma community have been since the 1990s. Remember, we're talking about the Central and Eastern European Roma community, not the British Roma Lichal. And they mostly came as asylum seekers the moment the Iron Curtain fell. Because their situation in countries of origin, where they had some protections under communism, that changed overnight. In some countries, they started being pushed, to the outskirts of cities, into encampments, evicted, fired from their jobs overnight. Communism had mandatory employment for everyone. And so at the moment, for example, I'm assuming this was Slovakia and Romania, which are the worst countries for the Roma. The moment they could get rid of the Roma from job posts, they just did, when those protections were gone. Now, obviously, the two migration booms, 2004, that's when the Polish, the Czech, and Slovak community came to the UK, and 2014, when that opportunity opened to the Romanian and Bulgarian communities. Now, because of multiple disadvantages that this particular community faces, the life expectancy can be lower by up to 20 years, depending on where they live and depending on the country. We are going to be going into more detail when it comes to that. And they rarely mix with the Gadget. The distrust towards outsiders is one of the reasons this community even survived into the 21st century, despite so many adversities. And something that is very often overlooked, and Stanisława was kind enough to point it out, it was missing from that presentation before. In Romania and Moldova, the Roma community went through actual chattel slavery. That was very much like the slavery that the black currently Black Americans went through. It was the same thing. The Roma were considered property. Their children were born into slavery. They had absolutely no rights. I think the only obligation on the owners towards them was to feed them, pretty much. So this is a very traumatic experience, and Romania has never had an honest conversation about Roma slavery up to this day. Well, pretty much like the US and Britain. Right, so moving on. We're going to go into some more details here. So obviously, Stanisława has explained some facts about the language. Now, this is where we had an interesting discussion recently. The Romanes language is, to a large extent, kept as a closed cultural practice, meaning a practice that not taught outside the community. However, you know, as you said, obviously you can get a degree in Romania, but whenever I ask anyone about the language, they tell me it cannot be taught to an outsider. So it seems like those attitudes towards language are changing, or perhaps they vary from the community. But I could never get anyone to translate a song. There's this one I love, Teorie Shukaria. I just love it, and no one wants to translate it to me, you know. And obviously there is no one homogeneous Roma culture, like Stanisława explained. There are different subgroups. There are very varied systems of values. The communities are less or more conservative. Even when it comes to clothing, you will find communities that have, you know, wear the traditional clothing. They wear the long elaborate skirts. They always tie their hair back. They always keep their hair long. But you will find communities when those rules are very much relaxed. They will wear trousers. You know, I'm talking mostly about women. They will wear trousers. You know, they will cut their hair. They will dye their hair. So it varies from community to community. The most traditional community is the Wallachian community, and I don't know. Do you want to add something here on the Wallachian Roma?
Wallachian community is the most traditional community because they are the ones I belong to, and also they are one of the only ones that still observing the traditional dress code, which are the skirt, like Magda explained, and obviously covering the hair and keeping the long hair. Also, you know, they tend to ensure, you know, that marriages are also arranged as well. They basically live a more traditional way of life, even the way how they are within the family. They're very family orientated people, which sadly is not always anymore common that much in other communities, what I've seen in other subgroups. But the Wallachian community always try to stick, you know, observing, you know, the traditional values. And the language also, it's very easy to communicate with another Wallachian people from different countries because the language is not that much different from, for example, the one spoken in Slovakia and in Romania, let's say. There's not that much difference, and in Hungary as well. So there's a lot of similarities. And yeah, like Magda also mentioned, the language, for example, in our community, we love when people are learning Roma language. It's just something that, you know, we really honor. We're actually very happy when somebody wants to learn Romanes because it just means that we are being heard and valued, and that somebody's interested in this community, in this heritage. And yeah, but I understand that it might not be the case in other communities, as I've heard from Magda. But for us, it means really a lot.
Thank you. So perhaps from the slide, because we've discussed most of it, we will just, it's worth mentioning that there are no reliable statistics on the community, and it's very much visible during the project we are delivering with Public Health, where we hold interviews with people regarding different aspects of accessing healthcare. And when we ask them how they would define themselves on a census, they would not tick the Roma or Roma Gypsy or Gypsy Roma traveler box. They will tick other white, because mostly they indicate they are either afraid or ashamed to admit that they are from the Roma community, such as the stigma that they carry from back in home countries. This is why you cannot really, unless you have a reliable, well, I don't like the word sample of the community, you cannot really say that something is or isn't true for the Roma, because they don't, you don't even you cannot really even know the size of the community in Birmingham, in West Midlands. It is very underestimated. Right. So unfortunately, this is what we're going into the ugly. So how the Roma communities live in Central and Eastern Europe, where they come from. I also want to mention that the pictures in this presentation are some of the photos I took during my travel across Central and Eastern Europe, and I've been to every single country and saw the living conditions of the Roma everywhere, apart from Czech Republic. And some of the pictures are what Stanisława sent me. They were taken yesterday, probably.
Yeah, yesterday, exactly.
I managed to incorporate a few into this presentation. So in Central and Eastern European countries, it varies from country to country, but in almost every country where they live, they are pushed to these encampments outside cities, or in the very just ghettoized areas of major cities, where they live in makeshift houses, very often without heating, without water. In Slovakia, we will discuss this as a case study. The unemployment is through the roof. The racism towards the Roma community is very overt. They are not hiding it. It is at institutional level. Schools, for example, in Romania, often are racially segregated. Sometimes there's a separate bus that takes Romanian white children and Roma children to school. In Slovakia, Roma children do not get to take their notebooks and textbooks home, because they live in houses without heating, and the schools, are afraid that they would just burn the books to get warm. Now, Roma children in those worst countries, so Romania and Slovakia, are also, we're going to say that it's a 50%, roughly 50% of cases. They are placed into special needs schools without any assessments. There are simply no academic expectations from them, and they are just not given opportunities to attend regular schools and progress into further education.
And even if they do attend a regular mainstream school, they always try to take them out of that school. Just find anything, to just take them out. Any little thing, just to have an excuse to, place that child somewhere else. Either segregate them completely to a different school, which has a bigger Roma population, or just take them away to the special school because they do not meet, do not meet the needs. They cannot meet their needs, as they say. But that is just not true, because they don't give them a chance. They just don't want them there. They don't want them to be mixing with non-Roma children. There's just so much discrimination and racial stereotyping. I could talk about that really for hours. It's just on an unbelievable scale. In terms of I know you mentioned the books. It's not just because they're afraid that the people will burn them. It's because they just don't want them. They just think that they're gonna get damaged or misplaced. They just think they will misuse them. They will damage them. That's one of the reasons as well. There's just complete mistrust in everything. There's lack of trust, lack of
yeah. Yes, no, that's very much true. And it is a very vast subject, and we could really discuss it for hours. It's absolutely outrageous that this is happening in the 21st century, but this is why the European Commission, even though they allowed Romania and Slovakia and Czech Republic to join the European Union, from day one, they have been keeping a close eye on the policies towards the Roma community there. Now let me go to the next slide. So Slovakia. So the Roma constitute up to 12% of Slovakia's population. Yet the unemployment rate amongst the community is up to 95%. The discrimination in the hiring process is overt, but it's not just in the hiring process. I can tell you our good friend and the former project worker on this very project told me that sometimes when she books her holiday online in her home country, Slovakia, and then turns up to check in, they will cancel the reservation on the spot, just seeing that she's from the Roma community. It happens, and it's a regular occurrence that everyone seems to be used to.
Yeah.
They are victims of ethnic segregation and violence. There are attacks on the encampments, attacks on individuals, simply hate crimes. Now, and this point is absolutely outrageous, and it's almost unbelievable. It's happening in the 21st century, but Roma women from Slovakia, and I have met them here in the UK, have been victims of forced sterilization without their consent or knowledge up until 2007. In 2007, there was a last recorded case. If you go on YouTube, there's a documentary about this. There was an investigative journalist, a woman, I can't remember what nationality she was, but she made an entire documentary about that. And sorry, skip the slide. Oh. No. Sorry, I need to. Yeah, so true story. Basically, we have spoken to women that were victims of that. Now, during COVID-19, when everyone was in lockdown, settlements of Roma across several countries were kept in encampments using military force. This certainly occurred in Bulgaria, also in Hungary, from what I remember, but then I'm not sure. Right, ethnically segregated class. We've covered that. Now, Lunik 9 is an absolute just phenomenon, if I can call it that, but in the worst meaning of the word. We're going to show you some pictures of the housing. This is from, I accidentally included a picture from the Czech Republic here, but so this is the housing, the picture, and at the top in the middle, this is from Lunik 9 settlement, and the rest of the picture.
Sorry, we can't see any slides at the moment.
Oh,
sorry,
I'm so
Magda.
sorry.
No,
No, it's okay. Thank you for telling me. Right,
Thank
let me
you.
see. Let me see if I can fix that. Can you see them now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just go back to that. Right, okay, so top middle is Lunik 9. The picture in the top left corner is from a city in the Czech Republic, where the community erected a wall to separate them from the Roma encampment, and they painted "Forgive us" in Czech on it. Now the encampment on the rest of the photos. Stanisława, would you like to tell us
Yes.
about this one?
Yes, actually, the same wall that you can see on the first picture is very similar to the wall that is next to Lunik 9. Actually, there is a same wall which has been erected. I think in 2016. I can't remember exactly, but there is a wall that is basically segregating the non-Roma community from the Roma community in the 21st century. There's not just one. In many cities, especially in eastern Slovakia, there are many walls like that. The next wall, as you can see on the picture number 3, on the first picture from your right, there is a settlement, Roma settlement in Stropkov called Zajarkom, where I I have many of my friends living there up until this day. There is a wall, as you can see, that is segregating the community from the rest of the non-Roma community. The situation there is very, very, very sad. It got to the extent that it's not only a wall that has been built, there have been also benches removed from, once they cross the wall, once they come out from the settlement, there are no more benches where they can sit down next to the other houses, because the people do not want them to be sitting there. They do not want Roma people to be sitting on the benches, to be socializing outside of their dwellings. It got to that extent. The situation, it's very sad. There are no bins where Roma people can put, the waste. That's why there is an accumulation of so much waste, so much rubbish, in which is causing, the current conditions, because there's just simple no bin, no skip where they could just place it all, or not to mention recycling. I did this research and this research in especially in this settlement that is on the picture. And when I interviewed the women and I asked about recycling, they've told me they would love to recycle, but there's just no way that they could do that, because there's no waste. There's no place for recycling. Basically, there's no designated place where they can put their recycling. And also, if they would want to do it, they would need to go out of the settlement, and they would need to walk for I don't know for how many miles to reach the place where they can actually recycle, which they would not be welcoming, because that would be outside of the community, obviously, where non-Roma people are putting their own waste, and they would not be welcome there. So that is one of the reasons.
Thank you for that.
So much racial segregation.
Yeah.
This is just one of the few examples. There's so many other examples. There's so many other.
Okay, thank you. I'm conscious of the time, and I can see that we're reaching 12:40, and I'm really going to have to rush through the rest of the slides. So I'm going to leave that on the screen for a moment. So the treatment of the Roma community varies from country to country. I come from Poland, and it also varied from city to city. In one city where I lived, we only had our neighbors lived pretty much next to us, our Roma neighbors, but we noticed that they were visibly poorer than the other members of the community. Then I moved to a city that I call my hometown, really, that had an annual Roma festival where the Roma community were very much integrated with the wider community, and the best living conditions, according to various reports, for the Roma community are in Russia, where they reach the highest levels of education. So yes, I'm not going to go into details on the other countries. I hope you can go back to the presentation later. Now, the unfair stereotypes about the Roma. Now, this is where we need to use the word nuance, okay? Because there are definitely some stereotypes that come from something that was observed in the community, but is not a rule for the community, and also it leads to it contributes to massive stigmatization of the community. I think at this point what I would like to address is the bride markets. So this was one documentary about one town somewhere in Bulgaria where there were bride markets where girls from the community would meet boys and their families, and it was like, which is very much like a community networking event, and it's not an actual market. But because of this one documentary, there have been, countless YouTube and TikTok videos about the community. And, the word is that, Roma families sell their daughters which is absolutely not true. Now, bride kidnappings, this is, this is something that, even I in Poland grew up with, the hearing about bride kidnappings, that, if a boy wants to marry a girl, he kidnaps her. It's very much, not a kidnapping. It's two young people running away if their families do not want them to be together. It is a tradition, isn't it?
It's not really a tradition, but as I mentioned before, it means in certain families, in certain groups, subgroups, it's still a tradition to have an arranged marriage. And if that marriage is not arranged, if they just fall in love, that's the situation when they do run away together, or if the parents do not agree for them to get married. But nowadays it's not as common as it used to be before. Before it used to be a very common thing that would used to happen, but nowadays it's just it's more than agreed nowadays, and everybody's happy for each other. But it does happen, but it's definitely certainly not bride kidnapping.
Okay. Now, child marriages, this is where we have to say it does happen. People under 18 do marry in the Roma community. However, these are not forced marriages. There are no situations, that a 13-year-old marries a 60-year-old man. This is very much not the case. They simply marry young. And this is also where Stanisława, I'm really conscious of the time. So if you could just, I don't know, just quickly, just break it down.
Yes. Just to be very quick and about this. So yeah, like Magda's explained, there's no such 16-year-old marrying a 60-year-old or 30-year-old, or older. Basically, child marriages do happen, but it's not because people trying to exploit the children or people forcing children to get married. It happens because there's simply not there's a lack of information, lack of awareness that this is not a common practice anymore. This has used to be a practice years and years ago, very long time ago, which was normalized also like in many regions in Europe or in other countries in the world. Because Roma communities are secluded, it's still some of the groups still practice this, but not all of them. This is a very something that's slowly dying. This practice, this kind of tradition is not really a part of the community that much anymore, but it does happen. But it's not because somebody is exploiting children or trying to force them. It's because it's a part of the culture. And it's always has to be always agreed. It cannot be forced. We do not believe in forced marriages. It's actually against our culture. We do not believe in that. And the families always have to agree, and the young people have to be happy about that. But it's something that really the community needs to be educated more about, because I know in the modern world it's something that cannot be practiced anymore. And hence I'm trying to explain that if you come across that, it's very important to give the family the chance to explain themselves and to give them, that education, to educate them that this is something that's not anymore practice, rather than, jumping into conclusions that they're trying to sexualize their children or exploit their children, if you know what I mean. So yes, just really big brief about this. It's very important that the community needs to be educated about this, rather than jumping into conclusions.
Vilified, yeah.
Very important, because this is,
Thank you for that. Okay, I'm just going to quickly touch on my personal pet hates. These are the gypsy Halloween costumes, or gypsy skirts, gypsy, women's wear, and just using the word as some kind of hip adjective to describe women's clothing, and also that there is wide sexualization of Romani women in the pop culture. The character of Carmen, Esmeralda, and also those Halloween costumes contribute to that, which then contributes to Romani women being victims of sex trafficking. So this is where we want to explain why we are having this session. The Central and Eastern European Roma community in the UK experiences completely, well, mostly different issues than the Gypsy Roma and Traveller community that is native to the UK, because they face additional barriers. Not only were they raised in overtly racist countries, I mean, not to diminish, of course, the terrible experiences of the Gypsies and Roma and Travellers in the UK. We know that they are still vilified and very much discriminated against in the society. But we are talking about racial segregation. We are talking about legacy of slavery and complete lack of protections in home countries. There's no clear definition on the community. Also, the so-called GRT community is also very diverse within, so we are very much against the GRT acronym as well. It is not enough to lump so many diverse groups into one. Another barrier for the community is not just the English language, the fact that they don't speak it because a lot of them didn't go to schools, but also the fact that a lot of the people in the community, and varies from country to country, but because of all those barriers to education, a lot of the people in the Roma community cannot read and cannot write. I work with a lot of Romanian Roma women in Ward End right now, and some of them can only write their name or to sign a document. Some of them cannot read at all. Same goes for men, or they will ask for block capitals because they do not recognize small letters. So they try to learn some of the language, but it's really a struggle. And obviously it's a young migrant community without infrastructure. Another barrier is immigration status, lack of understanding of immigration rules, and the fact that they don't have access to certain services because they don't have the correct immigration status. And obviously they face discrimination as being migrants. So this is a breakdown of the issues. So the typical model of employment of Central and Eastern European Roma migrants in the UK is work cash in hand. That work is obviously not stable. It can be here today, and they are without work the next day. They don't have employment, or they cannot access majority of employment opportunities because of the literacy barriers and also discrimination. I have worked for a workplace where I was told I was responsible for hiring, and I can tell you I was told directly not to hire Roma and Travellers. I'm not going to disclose the name of the company, which is still operating, but it's a major company. Modern day slavery, also because of all the above, the community is very vulnerable to exploitation. The housing they can access is substandard. They very much live in overcrowded houses. Also, obviously, because the families are so large and multi-generational. When they end up homeless, immigration status, lack of knowledge how to access immigration advice is also why they end up homeless and why they cannot access support. They have poor social mobility. This means that due to all of the above, they cannot really climb up the ladder and build generational wealth. And please bear in mind that Central and Eastern European migrants come from no generational wealth, because we went through communism where you could not build any wealth because everyone was earning the same wages, which were just about enough to survive. And now we come to the UK with no generational wealth, and there are barriers to building it for the most marginalized communities, right? Now, the Roma community is also alienated from the white counterparts in the community from their own countries. So the non-Roma, right, the Gadzie, which is the expression for the non-Roma, the Gadzie Slovakians do not want to mix with Slovakian Roma. The community smokes a lot of cigarettes, and they start very early. Some of them started before the age of 10. And it is seen as part of the culture. It's very difficult to speak to them about quitting because they are not interested in quitting cigarettes. Well, a few of the people we spoke to were, but majority of them say they are not even interested in information regarding quitting. Sexual health and mental health are taboo. It's very difficult to start any sort of conversation on that topic. And we've discussed the education, the literacy. Now, also another thing, I know we only have 10 minutes left, so I'm really going to rush through this one.
If I can just say very quick, I'm sorry, Magda, for interrupting you here. I just really think this is really important to mention. I think that all of these difficulties and issues that are being faced by Roma community can be also overcome, but it is so important that that workshop that's being run, there is a representative from the community is very important. And we have seen in Sheffield, where I also work, we have, and I was a part of many projects that were conducted there, that were, helping Roma community to, gain more information and knowledge. If there is a member from Roma community, a role model present, who is delivering those workshops or being just simply present of it and, a part of it, there is a huge engagement from the community. And there are actually changes are actually happening. People starting to access, the education, the opportunities, learning opportunities, starting to educate themselves about, healthcare, about their own health, and about, the impacts of smoking, impact of mental health, how to get the help. But all of this is being achieved only through that engagement, there's somebody being there from the community, as these girls who, we can see on this slide now, they are from Sheffield, and they graduates, they have achieved so much, and they, were part of one of those projects I was part of. I was an honor to be part of, where we were talking about vaccinations, immunizations, and they have recorded videos where they were actively promoting and then saying how important it is to, to get vaccinated, they were talking about the misconceptions about vaccinations, and it just had a profound impact on the whole community. So much interest that's been expressed, and it's just simply because there was somebody from the community who have acted as a role model and who have advocated for it, if that makes sense. So I think this is very important, because there is always going to be that mistrust, that worry, that fear, but when there is somebody from the community, it really helps, Roma people to have that trust, and it helps them to, to have the access to the information, to actually have the willingness to access the information and to educate themselves. So that's something I really needed to highlight.
Thank you so much. And
sorry, Magda, would we be able to spend 5 minutes on your top tips on how to
exactly, that's the last slide. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just want to highlight just one thing from this slide. In the UK, being in the UK is actually a massive opportunity for the community, because they are yet another minority here. Okay, there are so many people from all around the world here. In our countries in Eastern Europe, there are just the white people and the Roma, and obviously we have people from other minorities, but these are small percentages. The Roma minority is massive, and they are the most discriminated group, which is why them being in the UK is such an opportunity, because they have the same protections here as the other minorities. Okay, now let me just click to the next slide. Okay, very quickly, do not use the word gypsy. This language has been used against, the word has been used against them for centuries as a negative. Some of them have reclaimed it, the others didn't. Only they can make that decision. Understand the needs. They need the basics first. They need jobs. They need housing. Then we can talk about the rest, right? Like well-being. Now, because we don't have a culture of volunteering, do offer paid positions to people from the Roma community rather than offering them volunteering. Now, the important thing with this community that is so close is that if their trust is broken once, it is gone forever. You are not going to have them back in your space engaging with you again. if you break that trust. And also, I was going to start with the presentation with this, but 2 days ago we had International Roma Day. It's always on the 8th of April, so please do observe that. Okay, so these are our practical tips. So representation is absolute key. You need to have someone from the Roma background leading on any projects that that you want to engage them with. Sorry for the typo here. And if you do that, they will come. They will involve other people from the community. Any type of efforts that want to, that if you want to tackle any issues in the Roma community, you need to work with them and let them lead on that. Remember about the barriers that the community faces. Remember about, even if they are literate, they might not have the vocabulary to talk about their mental health, for example. So use plain language, translate any communications if you can, and do use a variety of methods. So you do not only use writing, do not only use flyers, try to do videos, try to do voiceovers. Stanisława has also done some of that. Now, the community priorities, you will not get people from, that also goes majority for the Central and Eastern European community and as well. If you want to have people, to just have conversations about recycling, you need to give them something first. This is why our projects concentrate on providing immigration, housing and welfare advice first and money advice first. And then we use the opportunity to talk to the community about different things, about the well-being, about the quitting smoking, but you will not get engagement if you skip those issues. It's like the hierarchy of needs by Maslow. You got the big triangle, there are the basics on the top. And it's also like evolution, ancient men started painting in caves after they learned how to hunt. So it's very much the same for this community that doesn't have good infrastructure and doesn't have generational wealth in the UK, that doesn't have good support networks, right? So if you want civic participation, political and environmental issues, you need to engage with them on the basics first. And be intentional about the engagement, invite the community directly. Do not assume they will come to you because they are used to not being wanted and invited anywhere. So you need to be very, very intentional, and you need to go out to them. If you know where the community hangs out, just go out and talk to the people.
And offer opportunities, learning opportunities for them to educate themselves. They will definitely want to be a part of it when it's been offered. Okay. I don't know anybody who would turn anything like this down. They always want to be, they want to achieve the personal growth. They want to be part of it.
So we spend 5 minutes running through questions in the chat and any additional questions. So first question is from Leslie. Are Roma women accessing maternity services in the UK? If not, who is delivering them and registering their baby's birth?
Roma women are accessing the maternity services. However, due to the stigma that they faced, and due to obviously the racial profiling that they were facing in their home countries, they are often very wary of them, and sometimes fearful of them, how they will be treated. So that's why some of them do not attend the appointments, and they kind of sometimes don't even report that they are pregnant. Even I was, I've seen cases like that, because they were just simply really worried how they will be treated. It's not because they didn't want the baby, to be okay, but it was just that so much fear, due to the based on their past experiences, that they just were hesitant. And I've never seen, unfortunately, I've never seen the heritage being really recognized from the health services before. Even when I was interpreting for the Roma women, they just simply seen them as Slovakians or Czech or Romanians. They never seen them as Roma, or they would just assume they are Romanians, basically. So there is that, the cultural identity is really lost. That where needs to be done more education about that, to the health professionals as well, so they can recognize that person it's an ethnicity, not nationality, and they are being recognized. And then just needs to be a little bit more sensitive about the issues. That's very important, because like Magda mentioned, once the trust is gone, it's gone, and it's not going to come back. It's very important to be sensitive.
Thank you. Leading on from that, there's a couple of comments and questions in the chat around engaging with the community and the different ways in which we would engage across the community. So, Magda, have you seen what people have been saying in the chat? Whether you've got any response or thoughts to that on, are there unique or different ways we should be engaging with people within the community?
I think for this, as I mentioned, there needs to be a representative from the community, a role model, because once that person is there, believe me, the engagement will be huge. And I've seen it on many numerous occasions, especially in Sheffield, South Yorkshire, Rotherham, how much the community is engaging there. There is so much input from the community, so much engagement. It's amazing. When I showed Magda the projects that we've done there, even she was amazed when she saw that, like, how much engagement's been there. And this is just something that's so profound. Once you have somebody from the community involved, or even employed, find somebody and employ somebody, you can really make a huge difference.
Mm. Yeah, I was amazed, because we can't get Polish people to vaccinate their children, and here Stanisława is, engaging with Roma women with this, very difficult to engage with community. Monica?
Hello, and thank you for a very insightful and interesting presentation. So the question that Alice has asked, I asked, and I was interested in finding out whether within the actual Roma community, there are differences that we need to be mindful of when we're engaging. So yes, it's okay to have a representative, but I'm conscious that one representative of the community, let's say from Slovakia, will not be representative of all of the Roma communities, and there's quite a few of them.
Yes, I agree with you.
So any tips, and I appreciate you can't give them now because the time is running out, but any tips or anything that you can signpost us to in terms of any materials of how to approach or kind of engaged with the individual kind of communities within the community, and what are the sort of differences that we need to be mindful of, it would be really helpful.
So that's a really good point, Monica, what you just said. Yes, I 100% agree. So somebody from Slovakian Roma community might not have an exact understanding of the Romanian Roma community. It depends really of the knowledge of that person. Like, for example, in myself and some of my colleagues, some of people I know, individuals I know, they are aware of the Romanian Roma community and of their values, but not everybody is. So it's so important to know that that person is aware of it, first of all. Second of all, there is unfortunately, I have to say this because I think this is very important. There is a huge hostility going on between Slovakian Roma community and Romanian Roma community, but not from the Romanian Roma community, but from Slovakian and Czech Roma community. It is very, very heartbreaking, actually. And this is all started due to the misconceptions, that Romanian Roma community is putting Slovakian and Czech Roma community into shame. And they think this because of this, of the problem when it comes to begging, for example. They think that Romanian Roma community putting Slovakian and Czech Roma community into shame, which is not true at all. The begging is a very huge topic that I could, again, talk for a very long time. I know we don't have time, but I just want to summarize something and say something really important about this. Is not what you think it is. Is not what it seems like it. It is something that people are being forced to do. There is a forced begging, and if they do not beg, they will be really severely mistreated, because they are the victims of human trafficking, and it's something that not many people know. And if they do not come with anything, they are being really, really severely mistreated. So that's why, and also begging, asking for money is the only way how some of them are able to source income in Romania up until this day, because they can't get jobs there. Nobody wants them. nobody wants them. They don't want to employ them. This is the only way how they could earn their living, and that's why they continue in the UK, because they do not know anything better. There's just simply lack of education. But once the education is being given to them, and I know it myself because I've seen it so many times in the Romanian Roma community, they are so striving. They so steadfast in, on their journey. They hardworking people. They want to educate themselves. They want to have an education. They want to be working, and they are working. They so keen on finding a new job. I just provided a reference for one of the Romanian ladies a few days ago. She wanted to get a better paid position in the place where she was working from the office rather than selling magazines outside. She wanted to be working from the office, so I just gave her a reference. She asked me if I can help her, and I was very happily gave it to her. So there's just simply, it's so important to have somebody with the understanding as well. It can be from the different community, but they must have an understanding of each community. And if they don't have, then it's simply much easier to get somebody from that community directly. So which means Slovakian Roma communities should have somebody from Slovakia who is a Roma grassroots person, and Romanian Roma community, somebody from Romania who is obviously grassroots Roma person, and so on. Same applies to Bulgaria. I'm not aware of issues faced between other countries, but I can just tell you about Romania, Slovakia, and Czech Republic, how the issues are there, and obviously how the relations are. But yeah, I hope this helped to answer the question. I know there's a lot to say about this, but I'm conscious about the time.
Yeah, thank you. You've provided so much insight. It's been amazing the amount of insight you provided. Monica, shall we do one final question with you, and then should we close the session?
Yes, if you want to do that, yes. I just kind of put a question around begging, whether it is related to domestic abuse predominantly, or slavery outside the household, or even outside the community. So what is the trend effectively around that, particularly within the community in Birmingham and in the UK? Thank you.
I've literally just answered that in the chat because I thought we were out of time. So a lot of the people from the Roma community that you see, playing accordion for money or begging for money, usually the persons that's the gang master of a network of victims of modern slavery, usually that person is around. So they are releasing several people to the streets to beg or to play instrument for money. But they are watching. If you approach them and you ask them, if they are in trouble, if they want help, you might actually get them in more trouble.
Are they family members, or are they gangmasters within the community itself, or are they outside of the community?
It's within the community. Sometimes